So, can everybody see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. So, today we're going to talk about Power Apps Portal and how can you upgrade them with PWA and what it stands for and what it is. And before we begin, let me briefly introduce myself. So my name is Oleksander. I'm CRM architect working for T-Shape. I'm originally from Ukraine, and right now I'm living in Poland, working. You can find me in various social media by my alliance, Dancing with CRM, and also you can check out my blog on dancingwithcrm.com, where I'm blogging about Power Apps Portal, Power Apps Component Framework, and Power Platform overall. You can also check out my GitHub page where I get a lot of my components and stuff like that. And without further ado, let's get started. So what we learned today, and we briefly remind ourselves what Power Apps Portal is and what we can do with it, and we will learn what is progressive web app, what is the main building blocks of PWA, and then we will have a simple demo how can you easily turn your Power Apps Portal into something much more powerful. And then obviously we'll have a Q&A session. So, of course, what is Power Apps Portal? Well, as you all know, it's Microsoft's low-code platform for creating stunning websites, but it has an issue, and it's not an issue, but more a problem for us as developers that we don't have access to backend, obviously. So what we can do is we can only use the web technologies that live on the client side that we can utilize, like React frameworks and other stuff. And one of the web technologies that are growing, and basically it's a set of web technology, is progressive web app, as some of putting it out as the future of the web application. So what is it? Well, I really like this quote from Google that PWA are websites that took all the right vitamins. Obviously, this basically shows what websites are, websites on steroid, because what you think about website and what you think about native apps are two different things, right? Native apps can be installable, native apps can run offline, native apps can do a lot of things. What you think about web apps is something that lives only on the web, something is online, something that must be fast and fairly simple. Well, PWA combines the best of both worlds. Installability, reliability, and fastness of the native applications with small size and being online from the web application. I really like this graphics from the Google that basically PWA combines best of the both worlds into one thing. Now, usually defines 3 or 4 main pillars of progressive web app. They are capable, they are reliable, they are installable, and they are fast. So let's bring them one by one to understand what exactly they mean. And let's start with capable. What progressive web app can do that regular website cannot? Well, first of all, and it's basically holy grail for a lot of people, it's that it can utilize and send phone notification. It's really convenient to have a notification from your favorite app. And now imagine that your website can send notification to a user, notifying about new updates or any other stuff. It's one of the most powerful features that can use. Then it can use modern APIs, and it's a bit of a wide definition of the modern APIs, what it can do. And basically, your web app can have all most relevant web technology and can use in it. And of course, the best feature is offline. You can and you should build your progressive app to support offline scenarios. Maybe not bring the user full value of the full-blown app or serve something, but at least to show them that they're offline or do some regular stuff or save the data that they want to submit and stuff like that. I really like this user journey map that Google bring up. So how the user usually interacts with progressive web app and what make it reliable and fast. So one of the first things that's happening when the user returns your web application is that you can utilize resource caching. Basically, you saving some resources on a user's device and then serve them locally. So they don't need to go back to the web page. And also, you can prefetch some things if you think that your user will attend this, and that page, you can prefetch them without affecting the loading time of the page and then search them faster. Caching resources also bring the next benefit, which is offline capabilities. Because you cache some resources and you save them on user device, you actually don't need a web to serve those resources. And of course, as I said, holy grail of everything, web push notification, basically ability to send them notification and bring them back to your web application. And of course, installability. If the users enjoy your app, they can install it and they can view it not as a website, but as an app on their phone or desktop that they can use. Now, what actually installable looks like on mobile and desktop, when you attend the progressive web app and spend some time, 10 seconds and more, it may show you some add to home screen, a notification, maybe as a big dialog or some customizable small dialog. Or if you're using it on the desktop, on the regular app, maybe you notice this plus sign in the Google Chrome in some application. It indicates that you can install this app and use it as a separate app. Now you might think, well, why do I need to be able to install websites, right? There is a lot of applications that can be used for that matters that might be better. And it is true, but there is a big difference. So let's take a look on average size of installable app in megabytes per different platforms. So in Android, it's 11.5 megabytes. In iOS, it's 37.9 megabytes. And for PWA, it's only 0.35. So imagine it's more than 40 times less than in iOS. Why so? Well, because you're just saving small resources. You're saving just some HTML files, maybe some styling, maybe some images. Of course, you will not get, maybe not in full extent availability of the full-blown app, but it's so small that it's a huge advantage, especially on the low platform devices that doesn't have a lot of space or performance for that matter. Now, okay, I know it sounds, cool, but did anybody actually did this progressive web app sync in real life? Well, a lot. So let's start with Twitter. And in 2018, Twitter introduced Twitter Lite, basically a progressive web application. And they see 75% increase in tweets sent via Twitter Lite, 20% decrease in bounce rates, and 65% increase in pages per session. It was impressive results just on launching something that small. And because it's a progressive web app and it can run on even the low-key devices, it was spread like a wildfire. And it's not only Twitter. Forbes in 2017 launched their progressive web app. And what they saw is 43% increase in sessions per user, 20% increase in impressions per page, and 6-time increase in the number of readers completing articles, which is a huge number for relatively small effort, I would say. And last but certainly not the least is Pinterest. When they launched their progressive web application, they saw 30% increase in time spent on their website, 50% increase in ad click-through, and 65% increase in pages per session. So as you see, just implementing this relatively small technology will get a big boost for the company. Okay, but what actually stands behind this abbreviation and how you can implement it? Well, let's move to the main building blocks. So there are two main building blocks of the PWA. First is Web App Manifest, and the second is Service Worker. So let's start with Web App Manifest. So a Web Manifest, it's just a JSON file, just simple, straightforward JSON file. And it describes your application. Basically, it tells the browsers and the user what to expect from your application, like what is an app name, what is the URL, what icons it has, what shortcut it may have. Yes, you can create shortcuts, and I don't know if you use it on your Android or iOS devices, but in some application, if you long press on some application, you will see some shortcuts or short actions that you can do. Well, you can implement the same things with PWA, and it's called shortcuts. So let's see a simple example of Web App Manifest. So as you can see, this is the simple JSON file that describes the application. So it has the name. What does it called? It has a short name. Basically, you should use this as the name of the shortcut that will be saved on the user devices on either desktop or Android. Then you define scope. Basically, scope, one of the most important feature, and it shows on what level this service worker that we will discuss later should operate. Should it operate on the whole website, whole application, or there are sections like only this part of your web application or website should be seen as PWA and should be operatable. Then you need to define a display. And display is basically how your web application will be viewed. So you have different options. You have full screen, standalone, browser, minimal UI, or none. Basically, what does it mean is your application is progressive web app. It's not a separate application. It doesn't need to have the library installed because it's always runs in the browser. And display basically define what part of the browser user should see. For example, full screen will open the application in the full screen mode, meaning that you won't see the status bar, anything else, but it still will be browser. And for example, browser option or none, does it matter, will just open it in the browser like anything else. Then you have start URL, basically the main URL of your web application from which we should start. And simple description. Also, you might notice in the beginning there is two things, theme color and background color. Basically, they're using for loading screens and some different UI elements that you can embed separately. Because when you first start your app, it will show the main icon if it has it, and then it needs to render background in some color. So it will use those one, but they are not necessary and can be omitted. And then you need to provide set of icons. So to make app installable, you need to provide a set of icons that can be installed on user devices. And you can have a wide variety of icons covering all possible sizes or just the required ones, like 512 by 512 for the desktop and 192 by 192 for the mobile device. Or you can install everything and then the device will choose which icon is preferable for it and will put it automatically. So hope I'm not rushing this out, and if I am, just please stop me and I will do it slower. Okay, so this one was relatively simple building block, and it was the first one. Let's move to the second, which is much bigger, which is service worker. So what service worker is, it's just a JavaScript file that you defined your logic and code that need to be run. And the main advantage of service worker and what makes it unique, it's run in a separate thread. So as you might know, JavaScript is a single-threaded language, meaning that everything operated in the single thread, where service workers and actually other type of web workers, which exist a lot of things, they operate in a separate thread of the main thread, meaning that they actually, and this is one of the main advantages, they don't need a web page to run. Meaning that if you close your browser, a service worker can still run in this in the separate thread in the background doing some things. And of course, there is a limitation of service worker can do both from security and from many other reasons. So it mainly connects to the main page or the main thread via messages, which are just some sort of text messages that can be sent and received, and it can operate on it. And the other thing that is really important about service worker is it acts as a proxy. So meaning it will stand between your web page and network and operate, and all your requests will go through service worker. And that's when the magic happens. That's where the caching and other stuff will happen. So let's see how it works in this small diagram. So you open the web page and it has a service worker, and then you want to open any other page? Well, your request go to service worker, and service worker first check if it has this page in cache. If it does, okay, great. Then we will just serve it back the cached version. If it doesn't have it, okay, we will go to the network and try to obtain the page. If it finds the page, you can make it to save it to the cache and then serve it back. So the next time you can go back, it will just go to the cache and make everything much more faster. Of course, this is simplification and only one of the strategy. There is a lot of them. There is network first strategy when you always go first to the network, and if it doesn't find it there, it's go to the cache. You can also define different expiry policies when your cache should be validated. So there is a lot of things that service worker can do, and I will not cover them in here, but you can check it out online. It's pretty easy to find, especially because Google has whole website dedicated to PWA, and I will have a link for that one at the end of my presentation. Okay, before we see the example of service worker, I need to talk about two really cool things, which makes your life and life of any developer who would like to try PWA much more easier. First is a workbox. So what workbox is a library from Google that was developed to make serving offline pages and making your web application offline much easier. It has a lot of functions that already pre-built in it, and we will use it to make our service worker in the demo later. And then there is a website called PWA Builder. Basically, this website makes it so much easier to create PWA. You don't even need to know JavaScript, basically. All you need to do is go to that website and enter URL of your website, and then feed it image that you want to use as your link, and it will generate everything for you. It will generate a manifest, it will generate your service worker, it will generate your main JavaScript to register service worker, it will generate you a set of icons, basically everything in one package that you can just download and use. It's open free, and if you want just to try PWA without, going deeply into it, I would advise you to go there, and you can just Google it, or I will have later links in my links list. Okay, let's see what service worker looks like. So this is a simple example of the beginning of service worker. It was a little bit big, so I defined it in 2 slides. So first, I will show you how you can download Workbox and other stuff. And in this example, I will use Workbox as it's the most easier and most convenient way to create a service worker, but you can also do it manually, just not that straightforward. So usually you just need to define 2 variables called get 2 variables from Workbox routing called register route and navigation route, and then defines a strategy. So Workbox has a pre-built strategy for you that have both network only, cache first, network first, and all in between that you can check out in their official documentation. Then you need to define cache name. Basically, in all of your web pages, you have a cache, and you can have multiple caches for different purpose. So usually, you can create specific cache, for example, for offline pages, and specific cache for something that need to be served when you are online, and other, etc., etc., etc. So this is a simple example of creating offline HTML page. Basically, you can create one page that will serve only offline purpose and will be shown only when your user is offline. And in the demo later, I will show you even simplified example of this when we will just serve just static HTML directly from code. Now, one thing that you need to remember when you create this offline HTML is it doesn't need to have any third-party dependencies, meaning that it should serve everything in one HTML. If you have some styles, just build it in that page. If you want to have some images, just use SVG or stuff like that, and because it's offline. Of course, if you cache everything, meaning CSS file, images that this page is depending on, it's not a problem. But for minimizing size and making everything faster, usually it's the best practice to make offline page as minimal as possible. Now we got here, and what self and add event listener. Self in this case is the way how you call this in service worker. And at event listener, basically, we just define our event listener. And this event listener is defining on install action. This action only happens when your user click add to home on mobile or click on that plus sign in the browser, meaning this action will occur only once. And in this one, and when this action actually occurs, usually you cache on install only the necessary resources, meaning it's only the first time and you want to cache as little as possible but as meaningful as possible. So usually it's in best practices, it says that you need to cache either your offline HTML page or the main resources on the main page, depending on your web application and other stuff. In this case, we are opening cache. So caches is a specific variable or object that available for you in workers, and it has all caches that available on the web page. As I said previous, it can be multiple. And we want to open our cache, in this example offline HTML, and then add to the cache our fallback HTML URL, meaning our page will be served and saved in the cache. Now, this example show how you can respond to network and what you need to do. So again, we are registering network only, and we are creating the navigation handler. Basically, this is specific variable that will tell how workbox and service worker need to try and perform requests from your user. So first, it will try to handle your request using network only policy, meaning that it will go to network and try to retrieve the page. And if it doesn't retrieve it, we will return, and in this case, it's just a static example. We will return only this text. So nice, you're currently offline, and it will be served as HTML. But you can also return back an offline page from the cache. And then we're registering this navigation route. Now, I know it might sound complicated, but once you try it, it will look much more straightforward. And also, if you try to use PWA builder, all code will be written for you, so you don't need to write any line of code. You just need to create all files and then put them into your Power Apps portal. So, okay. Now let's move to demo, and before I move to demo, let's check out if we have any questions about it. Okay, I don't see any. Great. So let's start with our demo. So as you can see in here, I have the clear portal. It's just the starter template. Nothing was changed, nothing was modified. Pure starter portal. Now, if you go to developer tools, you might know that you have this application tab. And basically what application tab shows you is it was defined for web application. So it shows you the main things that can be used and that you can use to make your web application more powerful. And the main thing is manifest, and as you can see, we didn't register any manifest, so it cannot find it. There is no service workers, there is nothing, there is no cache storage, so basically nothing is creating, nothing is registering. It's fully clear website. So let's start with our manifest. So for this, we will create a web file called manifest.json. Okay, now let's add in here manifest.json. So I pre-built a lot of files, so we don't need to go and create them. So I will just go here and let's see what I put in here. So again, I just put in here the minimum required definition from manifest.json, but in reality, you can define much more things that I'm showing you. So I encourage you to go check it out, because you can define related applications, you can define shortcuts, and many, many awesome things. So let's name our application PWA Portal Saturday 2020 PWA demo, then short name, which will be on all shortcuts. Then define the scope. We want it to be the full application, and then we want it to show in full screen. Then we wanted to start with the URL. So this is the URL from my test portal. Then some background color when it will be loading. Then description, and actually description and background color is not necessary. So if we remove them, nothing will change, and only these are minimal required for, actually you don't even need to start URL and display if we are talking about it, because it will always fall back to the URL from which manifest.json came from, but it's just easier to define other things as well. And then set of icons. So 144 by 144, 192 by 192. This one to be able to installable on Android and iOS devices, and 512 by 512. This one for the desktop. So this is just simple JSON, as you can see. Let's upload it back to the system. Sorry. Folder. Okay, just a second. I think I might open the wrong manifest.json. Oh, correct one. Good. Okay. So let's clear the cache on the portal, and let's see, was manifest registered. Okay, the web page is reloading, but as you can see, it still says no manifest detected. Why so? Well, because you need to tell the browser that manifest exists, because it doesn't search for it, but it searches for one thing, and you need to define it in the head of your web page. Now, because we cannot go directly to head, there is a great content snippet, and it was shown by Olivier. Thanks to you, Olivier Rodriguez, and it's called head bottom. And it allows us to define something that we want to add to the head of our page. And in here, we want to put a special link. And in here, we want to say rel manifest, which will tell our website that this is actually manifest and you need to check it out. And it's ref manifest.json. Okay, save and close. Great, so now it should be added to the head of our page and tell the browsers that we indeed have a manifest.json. So let's restart our page. Yeah, great. So as you can see, it found our manifest, and it shows the name, short name, the start URL, the full screen and display, and it shows the icons that I defined. Great. But as you can see, it says no matching service worker was detected. Well, that's because server worker does not exist. Let's create it as well. So let's go back to our example, and this is full service workers that we will add to this page. So let's go through it. So first, I'm using import scripts. Import scripts is a specific function available only for service workers. And what allows you to do is allow you to load external code and use it inside your service worker. In this case, I'm downloading from Google APIs their workbox from their CDN, the latest version. And then I'm checking out if our box was added. And if not, we had an issue, right? And this one actually will be shown in our browser. Then I'm registering strategies and road. And as you can see in install action, I do nothing because in this example, this is the simplest possible example. We will not store anything in cache and we will serve everything from our code. So what we should do when the when website is trying to access the network? Well, we will try to handle it through network only because nothing served from in the cache. And when we have an error, basically the user is offline or something happened, we will serve him the small HTML. Basically, this is just the same icon that I added to the website in SVG format. And here's some text, nice, you are currently offline. And we will return it with this status code. And we register this code through the navigation routing. So pretty straightforward, only serves the code, nothing saved offline, only this one. So let's create service worker.js in our system. And I will also create it as a web file. So it will become service worker.js. Okay, and here we will upload the file. Nope, doesn't work. Okay, we'll edit Ugrade. Did I save it? Sorry, guys. Okay, and yeah, this should work. Now, if you try to add your JS file like this, it will show you an error usually. So you need to go to advanced settings, to administration, and remove restriction on JS file to be able to add a JavaScript file to your node. So I will show you how to do it. It's quite straightforward. Okay, while it's loading, let's go back to our code. So we added service worker, right? But it's not the end. We need to tell the portal to use that service worker. So we need to register it. So to do so, let me find our home web template and add some script. And in here, you will add the code that will actually register service worker and will tell that this one is a service worker and you need to use it. So this is a code, and let's go through it. So first, I'm checking if the service worker exists in the navigator, because it should be supported by all browsers. But if the user is on an unsupported browser, on mobile, or on some really old version of Internet Explorer, then we cannot register service worker. So we always need to check. And if service worker exists in the navigator, what we need to do is we add the new handler to the load event, and when the page will load, we will use navigator.serviceworker.register to tell the website, well, this is our service worker, register it, and the URL of our service worker. And then, you can do some actions after that. In this case, we will just show that it was registered successfully. Or if something will go wrong, registration failed. So simple and quite straightforward. All the codes that I'm showing in this example you will be able to find afterwards in my GitHub, and also if you will try to use PWA builder, you can find it there as well. So no worries if you cannot remember everything. So let's save. And I wanted to show you how to remove restriction. So in system settings, you can see the long list of blocked file extensions for attachment. And actually, JavaScript files are in here by default. So you can remove it if you want to serve it from your website, or if you want to host your in external CDN, you can always host it in external CDN and then reference it, because it basically doesn't matter. It's just more convenient to store everything in one place for me. Okay, we've done everything. Now everything should be fine. So let's check it out, shall we? So let's clear the cache. Let's go back to our powersportal.com. Okay, for some reason, no matching service worker. Okay, site data. Okay, let's go and let's sync. Maybe it will help. Let's go back. Okay, for some reason it still doesn't want to find our service worker. It's a question. Let's see. So did they name it right? Service worker.js in our web files. Okay. Okay, this one is weird. I think demo gods are not with me, guys. Sorry for this one. No idea why it's not working.
I was just suggesting there to check the console to see if there's any errors.
No, it's not even trying to register it because it doesn't see it. And I have no idea why. Let's see, do we define start URL properly? Yeah, everything is fine. Services is loading. Okay. I was prepared for this kind of stuff. So yesterday I actually recorded the video on how it works, just in case it will not work today. So I'm really sorry, guys. I will just show you the video. I'm really sorry. So yep. So as you can see, it has install button and it can be installed. And you press install and it's open installed version of the app. And also you can find it on the home screen and you can run it, and that's how the UI looks like. Yep. And now we are going offline to show that it can serve the pages online. And yep, this is the page. You are currently offline. Yep. That wasn't go as I planned. Sorry. Yep. Well, any questions? so far. Yep. So in offline, what you can do is basically, if you save in the cache a couple of pages, you can show them all, but also you can use it to save the data. So simple example is web application when the user enters some data, right? And you want them to be able to serve it even if it's offline. So what you can do is you can actually use either cache API or in this case, local DB API to be able to save the data locally while your user is offline on your offline pages. And then if you are online, you can just read the data back from the user device and send it wherever you want it to. So this is, I would say, the most common scenario of offline capabilities, but it's highly depends on you because you can preserve and save almost anything that you want on the user device and then run it back because most of the APIs are available to you even if you are offline. Okay. Yeah, so regarding Portal as a PWA, I agree that it's not for everyone. Obviously, it will not fulfill all the needs. But for example, if you use your Power Apps portal, for example, one of our portals are served as a customer self-service, and if something went wrong, of course, we serve the user possibility to just call us. But if it's not an urgent need or they want to just send us some requests that need to be delivered when they are online back, we are preserving this functionality. So it's really nice, I would say. But yeah, I agree that it's not for everyone. So how do you send PWA push notification? Yeah, so push notification are not only PWA technology, but mostly used in PWA. So to send the push notification, you need to have a couple of more things than just PWA. So first, you need to have JavaScript code that will register a push notification handler, and your user need to have a you need to give a consent for them to be able to send notification to. And then it will generate the unique user identifier that you can use to send a notification. And you also need to sum it up to save those unique IDs and also push notification when something changed. The regular examples that I saw on the internet and that you can find more of is to use Google's Firebase service of serverless logic and computation to be sort of a hub for your web notification. So your users will be stored, their unique identifiers will be stored in this web service, and you will send the data to web service to notify all the users that something changed and they can unsubscribe. So it's highly used in PWA, but you can also meet this technology in other web applications that use the latest technology. Okay. Okay, the benefits of PWA are mostly for the users that frequently use your website. So first of all, installability, I would say, is the main pillar of them all, that they don't need to type, they don't need to go to, anywhere. They can just find it on their home screen and everything will be just there. And also, usually a progressive app is faster because of the serving and prefetching data. So you, for example, can establish the policy that if your user visits some page more than 5 times, for example, and the data is not updated that frequently, you can just save that page. So every subsequent request to that page will be served faster from the cache. It's just a small example which makes app much faster. And if you thinking even ahead, you can prefetch. So you know that users will go from the page A to page B, or as I would say 90% of the time. So you can, when they still visit page A, you preload in the background page B to the cache. And when the users try to go to page B, you already serve from the cache, meaning it loads supremely faster, I would say. On the mobile, yeah, I'm sorry, because as you notice, for some reason, it doesn't want to register my service worker properly. So I cannot show how it works on mobile, at least in my example. And in the video, I only recorded it for the desktop yesterday. But basically, it will just be as a website without status bar or anything like that. Okay, well, in the scenario where the web form has drop-down list from anti-spin, how will you just prevent the response application is fine? Yeah, basically, this one will be tricky. So you either need to preserve some of the data in cache. So if your user is offline, he will go to the cache. So if you have static list of entities that doesn't require filtering, I would say that you just need to, save them as some, I don't know, JSON or HTML that will be served offline, something like that. Yep. Any more questions? Yep. I promise I will find out why it doesn't work and will write article why doesn't it work and show how to solve it. Yes, of course, you can use PWA for mobile app instead of a native app. It's a common trope to use PWA, and also one of the benefits that I forgot to mention is that you can actually serve your PWA through the native app store. So you can create a PWA and serve it through the Apple Store or Google Play Store or even Microsoft Store for that matter. There is a lot of apps that are served through all of them and their PWAs. So yeah. How does it compare with hybrid app? Well, you need to understand that PWA, despite having a lot of things, it's still web and it's rely on web technology. So despite you can use a lot of APIs, you cannot get some of the system APIs, I would say, that are available for the native application. Of course, you can do a lot with new web features becoming, with every month something new. But you need to understand that PWA is mostly to make a lightweight, fast, and reliable app for your user, I would say. Okay, so as promised, here is a list of links for, so this is a link for my demo and presentation on the GitHub, and also links that I was using. So actually, let me show you quickly how PWA Builder works that I was talking so much about and why it's so easy. So you just enter the PWA Builder, you copy your URL, you press start, and first it will calculate how much it already has to know what else to build. But it will not be able to find service worker because for some reason it was not registered. But yeah, if we go to service worker, as you can see, they already wrote the code for you that you can just copy. And also they have different scenarios. So you want to have a offline page, want to have a offline copy of all pages, you want to have offline copy with backup, offline pages, and each of them changes on how it's written and also the network scenarios that they will be using. So not only network only, but more complicated scenarios. So you don't need to know it. And also there is a code that you need to include in your script tag to be able to use PWA Builder. And yes, that's basically it. And it has also manifest generator, so it can generate your manifest for you with some additionals, and you can also modify it in here. So yeah, it's much easier, and you don't need to remember a lot of things. For PWA Builder, yep, sure. Well, approval process basically, I would say looks the same. I didn't go through the approval process for PWA to any store, at least not yet. I'm planning to do so from my personal website, but you can find a lot of articles on how to do it in videos. But in general, it looks completely the same as your regular one. So yeah, and also you can find the documentation for the workbox that I was using and also PWA builder is using, and the data that I was using for the graph over here. And thank you so much for visiting today and give your feedback. It's always valuable, even if it's a bad one. Of course, yeah, it's a bit messed up. Sorry for all the troubles with my demo, and hope you enjoyed my presentation.
Thanks a lot, Alexander. It was a really great session. So we already got a great acknowledgement of your session. You can hear me, right?
Yes, I can.
Yeah. So we are really glad to have your demo. Actually, we are getting a lot of great feedback from all the audience, and this is something really new that we got to know that we can create something like that on the portal as well. So thanks a lot for your wonderful session. And please share your contact details on the chat window so that if anyone has having some issues or they want to connect with you, they can get in touch with you through your social media channels.
Yep, sure, definitely will do. And of course, if you will have any